Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at an incredibly complex and honestly urgent situation. We're going to map out the regional fallout from the ongoing US and Israel war with Iran. We're cutting right through the noise, looking directly at the data and reports from the ground. We need to understand exactly how this conflict is rippling outward and destabilizing neighboring nations. So let's dive right in.
Right now, we are seeing a pretty sharp contrast. Up on the macro level, key international players are basically in a holding pattern. Take the UK, for example. They're sending the Royal Navy destroyer HMS Dragon to the Middle East to safeguard shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, but they've specifically noted it's only going to engage in that mission once hostilities actually cease. At the same time, US President Donald Trump is actively waiting for Iran to respond to a peace proposal, so diplomacy is essentially paused, right? Just waiting for an answer. But the reality on the ground, it is definitely not paused. While the diplomats wait, the Middle East is facing some absolutely devastating active realities.
Which brings us to the number 71. We are currently on day 71 of this conflict. And the really crucial takeaway here is that while these high-level peace proposals are stuck in that holding pattern we just talked about, the tremors from the epicenter of this war are literally burning through neighboring nations. For the rest of this explainer, we're going to zero in on exactly how those tremors are hitting two specific countries, Bahrain and Lebanon. Part 1. Bahrain's escalating security crackdown. Let's think about what happens internally to a Gulf nation when a massive regional war kicks off right on its doorstep. Bahrain wasn't just some bystander in all this. They found themselves directly targeted by Iran right from the very beginning of the US-Israel offensive back in late February. We're talking about Iranian strikes that deliberately went after Bahrain's civilian sectors and their critical energy infrastructure. Plus, the US naval base located inside Bahrain was also attacked early on in the conflict. So it's safe to say Bahrain's leadership is operating under an immediate existential threat. And because of that extreme pressure, we're seeing a massive internal security sweep. The number here is 41. Bahrain's Interior Ministry just announced the arrest of 41 individuals. And these aren't minor charges either. They announced the dismantling of an entire organization where these 41 people are actively accused of espionage and having direct links to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. It's a profound escalation in domestic security, which all stems from previous investigations by their prosecutor's office. But the crackdown actually goes way beyond just espionage charges. 69. Just last month, the Bahraini government made the really drastic decision to strip 69 people of their citizenship. And the reason? Simply for showing sympathy toward Iran. This really shows you the absolute zero-tolerance baseline the government has established right now. Any perceived alignment with the nation that's actively launching strikes at their infrastructure is being met with the harshest civil penalties imaginable. We have to look at the full picture here, though. While Bahrain's actions have definitely received official messages of support from regional allies like Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, there is some significant alarm sounding globally. Human rights activists based outside the country are raising serious concerns about the severity of this crackdown. They're questioning the overall scope of these sweeps and who exactly is getting caught up in the net. Are these strictly military operatives or are ordinary citizens being swept up in a panicked security dragnet? It's that classic critical tension between national security in wartime and the preservation of civil liberties. Part 2. Lebanon's shattered ceasefire. Shifting our focus from the Persian Gulf over to the Levant, we're looking at a nominal truce that has, utterly collapsed. I want to walk you through this active cycle of escalation because it really shows how quickly diplomacy unravels on the ground. Step 1, we see the Israeli military issuing urgent evacuation warnings for residents across 9 different villages in southern Lebanon, signaling a forceful offensive against Hezbollah. Step 2, this is followed by new Israeli airstrikes, not just down in the south, but actually reaching outside the capital, Beirut. Israel accuses Hezbollah of violating the ceasefire deal. And then step 3, Hezbollah retaliates by launching rockets and drone strikes directly into northern Israel, as well as targeting Israeli troops currently occupying parts of southern Lebanon. It's this relentless, deadly loop of tit-for-tat violence that is completely overriding the ceasefire they just agreed upon last month. Part 3, the rising civilian toll. It's incredibly easy to get lost in all the geopolitical chess moves, the drones, the evacuation warnings, the troop movements, but we need to anchor this explainer in the stark human cost. 7. According to Lebanese official media, these recent Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon and just outside Beirut have killed at least 7 people. And keep in mind, these deaths are happening during what is technically supposed to be a ceasefire. So the war is officially paused on paper, but the death toll just continues to rise in reality. We really have to look closely at who is bearing the brunt of this shattered truce. In the town of Sakia, an Israeli airstrike hit a residential building. Rescue operations revealed that this wasn't a military installation. It was actually a building sheltering 3 families who had already been displaced by the war. And tragically, among the victims of this specific strike was a 2-year-old child. This is exactly what we mean when we talk about the ripple effect. The high-level geopolitical maneuvering between global superpowers and regional militaries ultimately lands squarely on displaced families and toddlers. And sadly, this is happening every single day across southern Lebanon right now. Which brings us to the final, absolutely critical point of today's explainer. We started out by looking at the diplomats waiting for answers, and then we zoomed in on the active crackdowns in Bahrain and the shattered, deadly reality in Lebanon. So I'm going to leave you with this. If a supposedly paused conflict, a waiting period, can cause this much regional devastation, internal paranoia, and tragic loss of civilian life, what happens if diplomacy fails entirely? Thank you so much for engaging with this material today. And as always, keep asking the hard questions.